going on there, YouTube? Doing a little work today on the gasser. I got all kinds of issues to overcome. You saw in the intro there, I cut the frame rails in half early. I was going to wait until I had all the mounts and stuff made, but I can't really do that because I don't know. There's too many variables still with the front suspension. You can see here I've got it. I put one of my Sand Scorcher front tires on it just to try to see what a little bit more tire is going to do for me. These Traxxas drag wheels are hideous, and they just look cheap, and their chrome is so, yeah. But I like the dimensions. Now the tire looks good, but it's a little small, so I've got some things in the works for that. I can't mount the front suspension yet because nothing lines up right. I went ahead and flipped the rear axle on top of the leaf springs, and sitting on this stand that we got from Shapeways, that's pretty close to the ride height, I'm afraid. Maybe just a hair lower. And you can see where my front end is setting up. I can't have a drop come down an inch off the frame for these radius arms. So my idea originally was to have the leaf springs set flush on the bottom of the frame, but there's not enough rubber up front to do that. So I'm not sure yet how I'm gonna compensate for that. But also another issue I've created now by flipping the rear axle. Now it's going to rotate in reverse. It's not a huge deal, but some systems don't let you reverse the polarity and run the engine backwards. It doesn't run the same backwards. I've noticed that before. You get a different speed when it thinks it's in reverse. So that's going to factor into our electronics selection. But that's still a very long ways away. Really, it's just kind of a mock-up session. I'm doing a lot of brainstorming today. This build's going to be slow go because I need a lot of stuff still. I need a lot of money still. Due to the way it's going to set and everything, I don't want to have electronic or RC sorry, I'm not going to have an RC transmission hanging down out from under the body or anything like that. I want the scale V8, and I want to make it look the part. I want the R4. I want everything in it like a real drivetrain, and that's just going to take some time to save up for that stuff, because that stuff's not cheap, but that's just the nature of the beast. So I'm still trying to figure out rear hangers, and all my suspension stuff still just a loose idea. The frame rails are not even, I don't have any of the cross members welded. They're all just kind of mocked up. I'm trying to see how wide it needs to be for the body, and I really need to see how wide it's going to be for the scale V8, but I don't have one. I sold my Blazer, so I don't even have one I could take out and use. So there's a lot of things holding me up on it. The front suspension is the biggest issue, though, because like I said, I don't want those radius arms that low to the ground. And you're very limited on these front axles where you can mount stuff. Let me show you this one here off the car. So we've got these blocks where you can actually clamp leaf springs to. And we have these two holes here where I have my radius arms and everything attached through. I drilled them all the way through. And they've got the shock on the front, leaf spring on the back, and the radius arms coming off of it there. So looking at pictures of real gassers and stuff, I'm probably going to have to make my own radius arms just to look the part, because there's a lot of cool designs, and these 4-link arms they're really going to stand out on this on the kind of low slung rat rods. They don't really stand out that much. It's cool that it holds the front end out, but there's not a lot of room on those for a real radius arm design. So on this, it's going to be a big focal point because it does sit up so high. So we're going to have to probably make some myself, which I've never done before, so that's going to be a challenge to come. For right now, I'm going to do some body work. Now, I started messing with the body. I primered it real heavy, and it's had plenty of time to dry. And the other night, I was starting to sand on it, and I just wasn't getting anywhere, so I got my orbital sander out, and I went to town on it. And it had a few ridges and some spots on it that needed to be knocked down. And I did pretty good with that. I didn't screw up any of the body lines or anything, because that body does have a lot of features that you don't want to sand off of it. There's a ridge all the way down, and you got that line and this line, all these lines on the trunk. So it came out pretty good. It needs a little cleaning up, I did go ahead and primer it again. And I had one little oopsie, I dropped it. And if you remember from that video, the version from Nightcrawlers 3D is in 2 pieces. The trunk area, the last 1.5 inches of it is glued on, and it came off. So I've got glue drying holding that on. I used some plastic weld epoxy. It's a 2-part thing. It won't let go. So I'm not sure what Nightcrawlers 3D used to glue it. It held great until it fell 4 feet onto concrete. But nothing broke. The body's still good. Everything lined back up perfect, and I just glued it down with a little bit stronger epoxy, and it should be dry here pretty soon. So I'm going to see what we've got after that, see what other work we need to do to it. Alright guys, so epoxy is dried, the back half is reattached pretty well. You see I got it pretty smooth. There's a few trouble areas I still need to work out. There's still a little bit of print marks and stuff on the back of the window here. Just the nature of the curves, man. They're just hard to print smooth in that kind of radius. It's compound and 4 directions. So like this piece here got a little bit of a rough edge from my heavy sanding, but we can smooth that out later. Right now I'm just going to go ahead. I picked up some Tamiya putty. I've had mixed results from using this stuff before, so we'll see how it goes. I'm going to try to, oh good, it's all squirting out. Try to fill in this crack, and there's a couple spots on the front of the window here. I'm not sure if you can see that, where there's just a gap in the printing and stuff from material down at the bottom. So I'm going to do that in high speed so I don't bore you to death. Alright, that's a little messier now, remember? I used some scrap Lexan to make a little spreader for the front. Trying to minimize how much I got on the bottom part of the cowl, because I'm just trying to fill in some pinholes and stuff around the front, bottom of the windshield. Probably did a little too much on the back. We'll just have to see. I think this stuff takes a pretty good while to dry. It doesn't say on the package anywhere, so now we wait and we'll sand it again and start shaping it by hand. No more power tools. The tedious part begins. We'll probably have to have another coat after I sand this one down, and then we'll start hitting it with primer and seeing what we've got left to fill. I just did my best. I just used my finger because it's the easiest way to apply it. It's the messiest, but just trying to work it into the crack. Now I've got a lot of it excess on the edges, but it's hard to work small stuff. So we'll see what we got. It'll take a little bit for this to dry. All right, guys. So with the rear axle flipped on top of the leaves, everything makes a lot more sense on the rear end. I need some parts though, and I'm gonna have to steal them off of this old Trailfinder 2 frame I've got here. I need the front axle hangers for the rear. It's looking like I'm gonna make that's part of the reason why I haven't welded the chassis together yet, is I'm trying to make sure the width is exact. If you're familiar with these parts, they're one-sided. They bolt on the inside both halves, and the other one hangs out, so they run parallel with the frame. And I'm going to mount them on the outside of my frame, and they'll hold the leaf spring like that. That way it's it doesn't have to be quite as high to keep everything under the rail. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these off, and we'll start looking at how we're going to mount them and getting them even from side to side. Alright guys, this is really hard to hold into place, but I've marked the back of my leaf spring hanger, and if I can get it to go where it needs to go, I've marked the hole for the rear shackle. Well, there we go. Round about in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the frame apart and just do one rail at a time. But the good part about having them separate is once I get this one made and the holes drilled, then I'm going to clamp it to the other one, and that'll allow me to get it exactly the same spot on the other side. A little bit different process, a little bit different build, so we just have to adapt and learn as we go. It's every one of these is different. I get asked all the time, where are the measurements and all this for your chassis? And it's like, I don't have any. I make this up as I go. It's all just, that's scratch built. It's not a kit. It's not anything that you can buy. You just have to engineer it as you go. And yeah, this one's been a little trickier because it's something completely different type of setup than I've done at all. You wouldn't think it would be that hard because it's just leaf springs, but when you make your own chassis rails, that compounds everything that you're doing, the difficulty of it, because you got to get everything square, you got to get everything straight as you can, and get everything to line up from side to side. We don't want this thing driving sideways down the road. So I'm going to do all this stuff in high speed. And one thing I never really talk about, but you've probably seen me use, and I've been using it more and more lately, are punches. I've got, where are they? Oh, where's my good one? I see I use it so much I left it out somewhere. But I use a punch to mark my holes on the frame before I drill them. That way it gives the drill bit something to bite into. Now I'm going to have to search for my good sharp punch. You just hit it with a hammer once you've marked everything out, and it allows you to have a really precise starting point to drill, because flat metal you start drilling into, especially with cheap drill bits like I have, they start walking all over the place. So that's what I got. It worked pretty well. I think I'm going to have to rethink my rear cross member. It sticks through in the way of the shackles, which there really wasn't any way around that. But yeah, the angles and stuff look good. The pinion's set almost perfectly straight, which we might have to adjust. It'll be easy to do. All I'll have to do is swap in some old bruiser shackles on the rear, and that'll tilt it up just enough. We'll just have to wait till we get an engine and transmission and everything in and see what kind of angle we need, but straight on should be alright. Just a mock-up. You can see the height of it. I think that's a good height for the rear. I am going to have to cut the wheel wells out a little bit so the tires have more room, but that's something for a later date. In the back you can barely just see the shackles peeking down below the body. I think that's pretty good. I need to, well, it's almost pretty level. I think I like that. I think I'm going to leave the body level with the raised section of the frame and leave the bottom part hanging down. Kind of cool. Again, I'm going to have to completely rethink my front radius arms. I think the tire size is going to be okay. I'm looking at some other tire options. I need to order some stuff online and see, but yeah, those radius arms definitely aren't going to work. So I'm going to have to really wish my torch hadn't messed up. I don't know what happened to it. It won't seal or something on the map gas side anymore, so I'm going to have to replace it. But yeah, brazing I think may be the answer. I haven't done it in a while, so that would be interesting. But anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. I'm not going to mess with any more bodywork tonight. I've been tinkering with the frame for hours now, so we'll let that dry a little bit longer and then we'll come back and try to sand it all down. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Thanks for watching.